What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. It's Aleksi here. So in this video I wanted to talk about God and kind of like, you know, why in our lives like pride can really hold us back. And that's also a part of like pride doesn't let us be authentic either. And if you like to check out truth, first link, walk with God course, second, donations if you'd like, a one-on-ones if you want to talk to me about faith in private in description. But and all other links. But if you like want to truly be authentic and you want God to anoint you in your calling or whatever you're doing and really guide you, he's going to guide you to healing, because without doing the inner work we're never going to change to the point where we can actually do any kind of calling for him. Because how can we do anything if we're not healed and if we're not coming from an authentic place where we're open-hearted and honest? Because how are you able to be, like, for example, like doing these, like how am I able to do this properly if I'm not healed and haven't done my inner work and I'm not able to be honest or open-hearted and talk about like my own problems or whatever as well, perhaps like recently, or like struggles or whatever I'm going through. If it relates well, and I can make a video about it or testify to something that changed in me. Like if I'm not able to actually do that, then how would I be able to do any kind of calling properly for God? In a sense, like if you're not able to be like that, that's where a lot of people have pride, and their lack of authenticity is like, God has to break that pride. You don't even notice it sometimes. It's maybe unconscious pride, or maybe it's just an area you're holding back on. I don't know. Maybe it's like, it could be like talking about sensitive topics. Maybe it could be like lust or greed, or maybe you have ambitions and desires that God wants to remove from you. Maybe you idolize people, something hidden in a sense, like that you're hiding even. Like these are the kind of things that God exposes in our hearts. And sometimes we can also like wonder and be self-aware of like, am I doing this for pride or status or identity or something in society? You have to really ask yourself your question, what your intention is in your heart, and kind of go dig deeper in your subconscious and heart and your mind, because that's the only way you can really figure out what your intention is behind everything you do. In a sense, like I could have a thought, for example, like, am I just doing this for status and some kind of identity in society, or am I being open and honest and actually trying to help people and in a sense let people learn from my experience, and like what is the kind of the purpose, in a sense, like are you kind of like faking stuff? Are you being authentic? And like are you hiding behind that like some kind of pride, in a sense? Like those are the kind of deep questions you need to ask yourself when God is trying to teach you stuff. And even if you just feel kind of weird about yourself, and when you read the truth, you come to understand that like through God's guidance, that these things like pride can hide very easily in our lives. And we really need to ask ourselves, are we being selfish and pride in some aspects, like not maybe willing to do some kind of work, or do some kind of thing for God, or even like being lazy or something like that. It could be like related to selfishness, or you're trying to hold on to some kind of pride and status and whatever identity you have in society, and that's making you kind of perfunctory in some manner in life. And these are the kind of deep questions you have to ask yourself: is, are you like holding back on some area especially because of status and identity and your own self-gain? And that's also something people are doing. Like it could be the music, movie industry. People hold back like secrets in these crafts, for example, that like so other people don't learn, so they can hold their own status and pride and identity in society, because that's all their value. They consider that to be their value, and legacy is like that they are these master craftsmen in their skill, and this is like the only value they have. But for God, that doesn't matter at all. Like what skills we have and how masterful we are in these things doesn't matter at all. These are God-given gifts and talents and abilities, but they don't matter to God in the way he perceives us. He perceives us completely differently. Do we worship him, follow him? Do we understand him and the truth and ourselves? And do we change like in our dispositions and as transform as people? That's really what God is seeking in us. Not, do we have status and identity in society? And, do we feel pride about like, some kind of stupid skill we have or whatever, this can be put to use, of course, like you could say this is a form of skill that I'm putting to use, this calling, but like, what do you attach to it? Like, is it, you have to ask these questions like pride and, selfishness and gains and whatever. Do you care about like fames and what people think about you, and whatever, if it's positive or negative, like comments on you, whether it's from people, family, society, friends, just YouTube comments, people you're engaging with, like, it doesn't matter. Like, do you care about these things? These are the kind of things you need to ask about yourself. Or do you care what God thinks about you and what you're doing at all times? That's really what you need to ask. Are you stuck in that? And are you stuck in pride? Because we can be prideful over many things, even unconsciously, that we don't realize. And that's how you kind of get closer to asking yourself, is do you feel pride? I myself, like, I wouldn't say, like, I used to feel pride for sure, like, at some point, and care about my status and identity, as I talked about in a previous video here. Like, I used to, like, care what people think about me and, like, my family thinks about me and the identity and status I held in society. And, like, you know, if I was, like, really good at studying or whatever in college, or, like, you know, what kind of status I had within, like, you know, the music industry or whatever, you know, like these kind of things, like little statuses. Maybe it didn't hold a huge place in my heart, like how many followers I had or something like that, likes and whatever. But these are the kind of things that hold back you from God. And, you know, these things keep you prideful and caring about status and identity in society. And, like, through these things, like, it's pretty much thanks to God that I realized, you know, it's not thanks to myself that I even realized, like, all these things were wrong with me. When I came to my faith and know God and the truth, that's when I actually understood what the problem was with me. And I understood that, like, holding on to these things didn't matter. And I had a lot of, like, clearly, like, in myself, I could examine even, like, as I read the truth and came for the guidance of God, you know, from prayer. I came to understand a lot of these things, like, you know, not mattering and these opinions. And I started getting over these things, like, you know, other people's opinions and holding on to status and identity and, you know, this pride in society. That a lot of people feel a lot of pride because they have achieved something or because they have certain status. Like, I don't know, it could be like, I'm a famous singer or a celebrity or something, and they hold a lot of pride to that and they can't live without it. You know, basically like Antichrist. You know, they can't live without status and identity in society, otherwise they just crumble, you know, if they don't have that, and that's all they strive for. And, you know, whether it's even under God, that's all they strive for, even if they believe in God. They just want to have some kind of status and identity in society. And so, you know, even I and everybody else needs to examine that, you know, like, what is your motives and everything else, and pride. But I hope this video helps. I thought this video was pretty good, and it opens up a lot of, like, thought patterns for you to think, and even for myself, like, to examine. But if there's a will, there's a way. See you in the next one. I hope this video helps you.